topics like how important the projects and internships play a role in the resume for placements. Uh,
Hello, am I audible?
yes, you are.
Okay.
Okay, so I would like to start first that mainly interns and projects are, if you have a good internship, then it is actually a good thing. But even if you don't, then you need to be like, at least you should have some good projects in your resume. The interns and projects will play a major role, especially in those type of profiles where there is a resume shortlisting. So you need to have good internships if you can. Otherwise, there may be a little problems if the company has some resume based shortlisting and it does not shortlist on the basis of only test performance.
Okay, so I would like to add
Okay,
further to
can
what
I
Yash
give
said. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Okay. So, related to resume and internships, like you can add maximum three projects and one intern. They are enough. Like if you put a link of the project in your resume, so you should be ready to defend the code because some companies like Sprinkler ask you to share the screen and explain each and every line of the code. So it's very important that you have the knowledge of the code you are writing. And in the placements, so as you will be practicing DSA, so it would be very beneficial to put a small DSA based project in your resume. Like it would be very easy to defend also in your interviews. And please do not lie anything in the resume because the interviewer are very experienced and they can catch you very easily. Also, some more tips are like try putting the projects for a single domain, like all of the web development or all of the mobile or all the machine learning, since this will ensure that you have to prepare less for the interviews, for which the time is very less. Like you have your interviews on 1 December just after the end semester exam. Okay, and you should also scan your resume through the ATS software. So what happens is every company uses it for shortlisting purposes, and your resume should have a good ATS score. So this was from my side about the resume and intern part.
Bhavika, would you like to add? Yeah.
So, internships are definitely important in resume. You should have at least one internship while you are sitting for placement. And also, like if you are planning to sit for SDE based interviews, then you should have development based projects in your resume. Uh, and apart from this, Riyad added that you can scan your resumes through resume scanners. One thing you can do is you can bold some words or letters in your resume, the important text tags or the important things that you have done during the internship or in your project, so that like while scanning through the your resume, the interviewer can see those bold things clearly.
Rajvika, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so hello
Yes.
everyone. I hope everyone is in good health and your preparations are going good. So let's get on to the question. So the question is basically resume and internship and projects. So I'll take it this way. See, there are two types of interviews. One goes around the DSA part and DSA and competitive programming. Basically, you will be given a data structure problem and you'll be asked to solve it. And the other types of interviews are basically they depend on the discussion, basically on your resume discussion. They may be a small part of DSA, but they'll not give you a hard problem or direct. They'll not throw a direct DSA problem on you, but rather they would like to discuss the work, all the projects, and all the internships you have done. So for the first type of interview, the only advice is you practice the lead code and code forces and all other DSA sites as much as possible within the given time frame. But for the second type of interviews, there are some things that can be manipulated. So let's come to the internships. Internships are the first point of they are the major a major point of discussion, because first, point number one, it is a work experience. So you have really worked with a company if you have done intern in a company. So you have a working experience, so it matters a lot. Then they'll look into the nature of the company and what kind of work you have done and the relevancy of it, and what is your contribution to that. So if you have really contributed into the company, so go well prepared for it. And in any company you have done internship, so please ask your mentors and your manager that what are the key points, what are the things I can use to explain this if I need to explain my internship to an interviewer. They'll tell you really cool terms and which can help you very much in the industry. So when you're sitting in front of an interviewer and you use those terms which are told by your manager, that are industry specific terms, so it will appear that you are very much experienced and you have very much hands-on experience on the work kind of work you have done. So this is about internships. Internships are a very good point of discussion. Interviewers are very much interested in the internships. They'll ask you more about it, and it will be a plus point if the work done on internship is relevant to today's architectures, like the kind of technology they use nowadays, like microservices, AWS, etc. Now coming to the projects. So I think one of the major doubt from every one of you will be that not having an internship is a really great disadvantage. It's not completely like that. You can compensate for the intern internship from some really good projects. So point number one, like Yuvraj said, please provide a link. So if you are having a web dev project, it's good if you have done it, you have understand the every part of the code, but it's even good and a cherry on the top if you have it hosted. So please try till the end that the project you create is hosted on any of the websites, and you have a physical working model of it to show to the interviewer. That will add as a certification to your project. And try to keep the project as relevant as possible to the newer technologies, because the whole point to present a project in front of a interviewer is to gain some extra minutes of discussion. See, every question that interviewer throws up and you answer is a plus point towards your selection. So you may introduce that technologies which you are comfortable in. For example, you are comfortable in AWS, GraphQL, etc. There are so many little technologies which you only need to know the whereabouts, like what is this, what it can do. But knowing this and just telling this can create a very good impression on the interview. So mention first do a research on what all things are relevant in today's industry, and mention it on resume. And please don't lie on the resume. Like every word written on the resume, you should know about it, and every word one level down. Like what are the questions that can come onto that topic? You should also know that. So do a one or two level down research to defend all kind of questions. That's it from my side on internships and projects.
One more thing I would like to add here is what Yuvraj said about the projects. So yeah, if you mention all the projects of the same domain, then you will definitely have some little bit of preparation and not too much of work to be done. But what I will say is, if you can have two or three different diverse projects in different fields, then it will leave a better impression. If you can prepare all of them, then it will leave a better impression on the interview, especially in the research type of interviews, or some interviews where they actually need some diverse kind of students. That's
Uh, Okay, so thank you for the knowledge provided. Can anyone of you also brief like what are the important points to mention when mentioning such projects and internship projects and the other projects which we create? Like what are some of the important points to mention in that? A brief through of that once.
write only those type of comfortable points in which you will be able to tackle all the different cross questions that can be asked, and try
Yeah,
to keep it short and apt to what you have done. Yeah, Raju.
yeah. So, like most of you have listened, like from your seniors or from some YouTube videos, that Your project should mention numericals, and like internship points should mention the data, like how much percentage you have increased the performance and how much you optimize it. So, like I've seen many people that come in the pressure of including numericals to their project. Like I've done this much and this much, and in the pressure of doing such things, they write some things that has an adverse effect on the discussion. So if you're not able to come up with that, it's perfectly okay. There are some kind of works which have no numericals. Like my personal project had no numerical value that I improved the performance of some blah blah part by this percentage. So don't worry. Like it matters, but the main point is if you want to get the numericals, please consider a discussion with your manager, like uh, whom under you have done the internship. He would be telling you perfectly that whatever fits in the domain. So like you don't face the interview blank faced, right?
Okay. Would Yuvraj or Bhavikadi, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, most of the important thing is like don't lie about the projects, because sometimes the interviewer can dig deeper into the concepts, and if you are lying about the projects or if you have not done that project properly, then you will not be confident also during the interview. So try to do the project on your own, so like you can face the interviewer if any type of question will be asked.
I would like to add one point. Like for software, what happens is like only your upper side of the resume is important. Like you can fold your resume and only the upper half is important. That is the intern and the project. And most of the SD companies focus less on the PORs and achievements. So major part should be consisting of this only.
Okay. So thank you.
Uh, One more
Yeah.
point I would like to add is yeah, for a short summary of what you need to write in the internal project, first a line or first two lines should explain what project you have done, and the next two lines should explain like what in which team you did the work and what did you implemented and how it is relevant to the current scenario or whatever technology you have worked. No, you should then sum up
and
the interns or projects in within 2 3 points, bullet points.
and you can also add the exposure of the technologies you got,
Yes,
and
that's good.
what impact your create the project created, because the technologies, if they are written in a single line, it's very easier to read. So his questions, the interviewer questions, will be directly coming onto those technologies, so it will be a simple discussion.
Also,
And
don't.
for one, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
go on,
you
Yash,
can continue.
go on, Yash, I
Uh,
will add later.
okay, I was only saying that if you are writing a project, then whatever amount of project or whatever part you have completed, you can only mention that much and don't just try that you have done the complete project, or you can explain clearly to the interviewer that you have done only this much part of the project and rest it was a group project, or you have contributed to some website where different number of teams or members were involved. So you can clearly mention them and don't try to be more exaggerating towards the resume in your interviews.
Yeah. So, like everyone here said, don't lie on the resume. But I would like to add, there's a very thin line. Like you can exaggerate a things a little bit, but you need to know about your stuff, right? This is how much I can handle about the discussion. So the thing is, if you write a code in an industry, right? If you write a code in an internship, they're not going to ask you to show the code, right? Because it's copyrighted and it's not permitted. So you can go a little bit around it, but don't go too much. Like do only if you're confident about your work and you can handle the questions. And for the projects, the minimum barrier, what should you know is, like I know a lot of the people they go to the straight to the YouTube and just they type the full stack projects and all. So most of you will be making a e-commerce site or let's say social media site. So these projects are okay. They are standard. They're using a REST API. They're using a backend. It's okay. It's good for discussions and security, JSON token, and that all. These are good for discussions. But my advice would be that uh, whether you copied it or not, whether you saw it from a video, please implement once. try to understand the function or the work, the function of every code block you use, every component you create. Try to understand it. And if you have like many of us, many of you are on the the verge of getting sitting for the interviews. So if you don't have time, prioritize backend over front end, because of the kind of experiences I have heard, there are way too less questions on the implementation of front end. And with being in the industry, front end is like a part where not the major questions from the logic come. Okay, so back end is a really good part that most of the interviewers will be tackling, because most of them are working in the back end in their domain. So you focus very well on backend, because there will be a lot of questions from the backend, and on the front end, it can be majorly about the technologies. Like, tell me about React, how does it work, DOM manipulator, and that all. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay, so thank you all. The next question is like, what are the some common mistakes people generally make in their resumes, including the PORs, extracurricular and achievements? Like you must have seen your friends' resumes too. So if you can share some mistakes which we generally make and how can we tackle them?
First of all,
Okay.
try to make it short. Try to make the resume as short as possible. Like not a half a page also, but generally a standard size is 1 page. But even if you have things that you can write on your resume and you can tackle them in the interviews, then even if it goes beyond 1 page, then also it is okay. Like for my placement resume, it was for about 2 pages, but luckily I was able to tackle all of those things. But recommended is that you should try to keep it only in 1 page.
Also, one mistake that people usually make is that writing OOPS, DBMS, OS in the resume. So you should write only when you are thoroughly prepared for those, because the interviewer can grill you on that.
Yeah, very true. If you are
Uh,
writing these topics on the projects, then you should at least have a complete knowledge of at least what you implemented in the projects.
so for the skill section, right? In the TPC format, we have a skill section at the top. So that skill section is a vocabulary, is a dictionary for the interviewer, that he'll pull every string out of that and he'll ask you questions. So use it very wisely. That skill session should include only the keywords that you are ready to be grilled about. If you're writing OOPS and like EBMS and OS, don't write it just for the sake. If you're writing it, be completely confident. And one thing you can do, in the previous question, it was like you can make your projects on the DBMS and that OOPS itself. So the discussion will also cover your projects. So be very specific about the skill section, because that's what the interviewer will first see. And also you can do one thing, you can hide that your semester wise CPI, it is not useful. And you can hide that, right?
Yeah, one more thing is you should optimize the entire space in the resume. Try to include as much points as possible. And like while writing the project descriptions, try to use words like implemented this, or developed this, and not like I made this website or used. Try to use different types of words, some technical types of words in the resume, and keep
Uh,
it short.
while mentioning achievements, try to highlight your programming achievements. If sitting for SD profile, some programming achievements, hackathon ML achievements, or some rankings or ranks which you have got in some competitions like Google Kickstart. Don't mention some other type of weird stuff. Okay, so these are just general points that generally people don't like.
Yeah, it's very important to mention your achievements. If you have done it, make sure you mention it. And don't feel like some of the people might be feeling, I'm only a specialist, why to mention that? So mention it, guys. The only the barrier of doing competitive programming is good enough. Like, if the interviewer has idea that you are into competitive programming and you are into DSA stuff, It may be a possibility that he has an easier question for you and he'll be completely convinced that he knows GSA by looking at your achievements or by looking at your rating. So don't be hesitant about writing your ratings. Okay.
Okay, so thank you all. We'll now move to the next section, which is about the preparation part, like how to prepare for the next 4 to 5 months. The first question in this will be like you all mentioned about the CS subjects, OOPS, OS, DBMS, computer networks. Like, what importance do they hold in the placements and like how to tackle and prepare them?
For CS fundamentals, like okay, some of them might have studied some subjects, like maybe in their third or fourth semester, but still you need to revise. For operating systems, GFG is enough, or you can see Yellow Pages website as well. I personally prefer GFG, and then some of the questions at the interview bit section. Computer networks is generally not asked in many interviews, especially if you are sitting for a company which is based on networking, like Cisco or Arista networks. They will test you on the network side, but it is quite easy, and if you have studied, then you will be able to handle the questions well. DBMS is generally not tested in the interviews. If you have mentioned your projects, then it can maybe asked. So prepare that well from, I will say, from GFG and interview it. For OOPS, you should know almost everything from starting of inheritance abstraction till the virtual functions inline. Everything you should know by heart.
I would also like to add one point. Nowadays, what is happening is for the interviews, the low-level design is being asked by many companies. Like one complete round is of system design, so it plays a very crucial part. So you should prepare it beforehand only. Like during the coding test, you will not get that much time to prepare the system design, and it would be a deciding factor.
Yeah, so the most important ones are the OOPS and the operating system topics. In DBMS, in some test, SQL queries were asked, so you should prepare that. You can prepare that from HackerRank, I guess. And apart from this, in interviews, if you have mentioned, then simple SQL questions and questions related to transactions or ER model could be asked from DBMS. And as Yash said that coming to networking, so you can skip that part if you are from a non-CS background, because then you can tell the interviewer that this is not in your curriculum. But for specific companies that are network oriented like Arista Networks or Cisco, they generally ask computer networks. So you can like prepare that after getting shortlist also. If you are getting shortlisted for those companies, then you can prepare that topic. But the most important ones at this phase is operating systems and OOPS.
Also, I will still again say prepare OOPS well. Like they actually ask you to implement some OOPS questions along with inheritance, virtual functions, everything. They can actually ask you to write your code, maybe on laptop or on pen and paper, as the mode of interview will be.
So this is a very good point and indeed a very important point that oops is a very critical point of interview. It's a very critical part. You should know every bit of it, and just knowing doesn't work. You should know how to implement it. Like oops, for in the eyes of the interviewer, it means you can design a class, you can design a system, and like you have to have the hands-on knowledge on oops, like classes, virtual functions, and polymorphism, etc. You have to have hands-on experience on how to create. Like you should not struggle in making those classes if you ask like create a class with this definition and all. So oops is a very critical part. Then yes, OS is one thing which you might get lucky if like your interviewer is not interested in OS or he has not worked on OS before. So you might get lucky in some companies that OS will not be asked. So yeah, there is a hundred like you have to prepare the OOPS 100%. Like you have to go with it. And for the OS, if the time is not enough, you can give it a little bit overview. There are some really good playlists on the YouTube. I think it's from Love Babbar and something like that. He gives a very basic
The
explanation.
Gate
So
Smashers one is also good for operating systems.
Yeah, but Gates mentions it a little bit lengthy. Like if you're shortlisted for the company and you have very few days about it and you want to prepare the OS, then I would suggest the minimum thing is you go through that code love bubber play sheet of that OS, right? And for the DBMS and computer networking, it's really company specific. And I think if you don't mention it your resume, for the 90% of the interviews, you're safe. You'll not be asked about the questions if you are not mentioning it. And once again, for OS, some parts like multi-threading and some more parts, you also need some hands-on experience on that, how to create multiple threads in C++, and if you're working on Java, then how to create multiple threads on Java. So there are some things, some parts of the operating system that you need to have a hands-on experience. So it would show that you have not only studied but also had a experience with it. And for the SQL, I would say that you have like you do practice in the hacker rank, because many of the times in many of the coding tests, SQL is a game changer. Like if you're it's always better to have a basic knowledge of SQL till conditions where group by and joins a little bit of it. It's very good to have a little bit of knowledge rather than nothing, because sometimes it's a game changer. It's a tiebreaker. So you have to have a little bit of knowledge of SQL, which I think you can prepare in 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, one more point. Like as Raj said, that OOPS is very important. So if you have a good understanding of OOPS, then you can tackle those system design questions as well, the low level ones in the interviews.
Okay, so thank you all for guidance on CS subjects. Our next question, which generally students have is they prepared for their internship season where they practice the basic uh, data structures and algorithms. So, is there any change, or like the students have to go an extra mile and prepare advanced data structures like segment trees or like that? Can you give some guidance on this?
Yes. So what happens is nowadays companies are asking tougher topics questions like segment tree, LCA, binary lifting, try, DP, digit DP, tree DP. So what happens is the OA is based on platform based. It's not company based. And generally the Hacker Earth OAs are relatively tough as compared to HackerRank. And also the questions do get repeated. So if you're not able to solve a particular question in a particular test, then do absolve it because it may appear in the another test. And you need to practice the tough data structures because that is the game changer. Like that makes you apart from others.
Yeah, correct. As said by you, Raj. I would like to add like this difficulty or data structures is very much subjective to different companies, but nowadays, yes, it is quite common. Uh, in some of the companies, it was actually not asked from which for which I appeared in the coding rounds. But yeah, do prepare them. At least you should prepare segmentary and try, if not the other things.
So basically, like there are different type of companies and different type of coding interviews. But a very good point was the generally tests are conducted on Hacker Earth and HackerRank. And yes, correctly said, Hacker Earth ones are relatively tough than the HackerRank ones. So, I think 3 or 4 times we faced try questions and segmentary questions in companies. Like the companies which I sat for, 3 or 4 coding rounds were based on that. So you don't need to panic. Like if you don't need these data structures, it's okay. But if you're confident with your DP, you're confident with your graph data structure, you're confident with the all the major algorithms, frames, MST, etc., then you should go for the try and the segmentary. If not, you're able to solve the questions. It can help you in the interviews, and you can tackle it a little bit. Like having a little chance, having a 50% chance, a 40% chance of solving the question is more than enough to give you the tiebreaker than the rest of the students. But like I would again like to say, first of all, just clear your DP and graph data structures.
Yeah, the most important ones are DP and graph, but like you should have a thorough knowledge of how to write a segment tree, Fenwick trees, and in interviews also. Like in one interview, I was asked a question related to tries also. So just basic understanding of basic theory of try. You can read those advanced structures. You should have a thorough understanding of those. You don't need to have any detailed knowledge like. There is a placement doc which comes, it contains all the questions of IITs and NITs, so you can go through them. There are certain questions of segmentaries in those, you can practice those, the advanced ones from them.
Yeah, so HackerEarth, what basically does is it has a question bank, and basically, I think it works like this. It shuffles the questions and it gives you. So, like I sat for like we are allowed for sit to 50 to 55 companies, but most of the companies backed out. So I think we all have sat for 65 companies and something like that. So we saw a number of questions repeated, like on HackerEarth itself for the different companies. So it's a good approach to solve all the previous questions, and if not solve, if not write the code, just implement the logic, just understand the logic. How does it work? And one more important point: the language of the questions that appear in the coding round and the language of the questions which are on code forces and on lead code are very much different. They're like they are completely different, and you have to have a hang of those problem statements which arrive in the coding round, because it can happen, like if you're sitting in a coding round and you just spend 5 or 10 minutes in just understanding the statement because you're not familiar with that kind of lengthy statement. So be prepared for it. Like start looking for the questions of the specific companies which you are aiming for in the previous year inter-IT doc or the other colleges if the company has came before in the other colleges. So keep an eye on that. That is really like it will give you a really good advantage.
I would like to
About
add on the
the
preparation part that just complete most of the things that you want before the starting of the company's test, because when the test of the companies will start, actually you will not get any much time to learn any new thing. You will only get time to just go to classes, prepare, give tests, and then again go to sleep. Like this is actually a very hectic, but you should just prepare things beforehand.
Uh, I would like to add one point. So, as Raj said, that you will be allowed to take part in the process of 50 companies during your placement season. So, you need to fill your willingness very wisely and not just blindly fill on the basis of the CTC. You need to check the company profile, the funding, and all these factors. And you can use a website called Crunchbase for it, because most of the companies withdraw from our placement process. So, you need to take care about this point also.
Yeah, very good point by Yuvraj. I would like to elaborate a little bit because I am myself from the non-secular branch, and it has some a little bit of disadvantages. So I would like to elaborate this point. So filling willingness is like the first step that you have to take intelligently after your resume, which can really reflect in your performances and the companies you're sitting for. So try to like there are some bands of the company. Like this is one paying with the high CTC and one average CTC and then one. So basically, we are differentiating. We are making bands like day wise. Na? This is a day one company, and this is a day two, day three, day four. So generally, your trend goes like you fill one or two day four companies if needed, and two or three day three companies, and three or four day two companies, and rest day one and day two and all. So like because situations are not perfect as of now in the tech industry. So you should consider your filling your willingness like very intelligently and very carefully, because I know some peeps that were very talented in coding rounds and all, but because they didn't have that good luck and they didn't end up getting an offer on the day one, and they had no interviews on day two just because they didn't think that intelligently in the starting when they were filling out the companies. They just filled out day one and according to the CTC. So it's good to have a backup. It gives you mental strength, and it gives you confidence, especially if you are from a non-secular branch. So uh, plan it very carefully and very intelligently, like how many companies are you aiming for, and search about the company. Like one platform Yuvraj told Crunchbase, and you can basically the first step you can do is go on their LinkedIn, check out their followers. You can go on Glassdoor, check out their reviews, and you can look news in the Google News. You can look if it's a startup, like if it has a current funding or not, like if the numbers are not too much exaggerated. Like Misho, once with Misho happened, it just got the like funding and it hires 20 or 25 people, and then next it didn't came to the campus. So things might like this happen. So one thing is you do research about the company. If you're having a senior or a friend working in that company, that's best. You can ask him about that. You can go on the LinkedIn, you can go on the Glassdoor, or you can search on the Google about it. And one more specific point, a company of certain domains are like doing good in this situation as well. Like the ones I know about is fintech space. So fintech space has been like one of the major recruiters in the placement session we sat for, like Navi Analytics, and they were very good. They are very good recruiters in a good numbers. So fintech is one thing. Fintech industries you can target on. Like they are doing good, so the profile of the company, the domain the company is working on really affects that you should fill that company or not. And the employee base is good enough or not, because just getting an offer doesn't mean like you'll have a comfortable life afterwards, right? You also need to look how the company culture is, and will you be able to survive or not in that company. These are also the thoughts that are given that are also be given efforts. So yes, please fill your willingness wisely. Keep enough of your backup options. Don't back out of backup options until you feel I have filled too many backups. That's a lot of backs there. So yeah, have a ample amount of backup, and then go for the day one or day zero.
So I
Also
also
do
have one
research.
point.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I was only saying that they also do research about the expected number of hires of a company. Like you can ask your TPRs from your branch, they have a good fair idea about what is the expected number of hires of that company. It may be 2, it may be 5, it may be 10, or it may be more than 10. Especially in these scenarios in which we sat last year, as well as what it is expected to be this year as well. Most of the product based companies will not have too much of hires this time as it is expected. Like things might change because it is a very dynamic thing, but yeah, you can expect a good number of hires from fintech companies, as Raj said, and they are one of the best recruiters and actually pay off very well.
So you can also fill the it like it's advisable to fill the willingness of all banks, because the process of the banks is relatively easy and they hire in a lot of number. So a bank is a good option to target.
Yeah, definitely. Standard Chartered and all those things, they are best. Like job security is maximum. Uh, the process is relatively easier. They do not go straight about DSA programming and all. They just do something about your projects and all discussion, and that's it. So banks, all the banks should be in your list.
So thank you for the insights. Um, so the next question will be like, in a brief, would you like to share the preparation roadmap for this odd semester? Like you can share your experience, how you prepared in this semester last year, uh, so that the students can get a fair idea for this time too, how to proceed.
Yes. So like practicing alone during the placement session could be stressful for you, and you might not able to figure out your growth. So you should try to make a group of your 3 to 4 friends and prepare with them. Like you could discuss all your doubts of DSA with them. You can give mock contest with them on lead code and try to maintain a healthy competition. So one issue that students face is that if you're not able to study in your room, you should prefer going to the library. So also, like in the seventh semester, you will be having your online assessments, as well as you will be having your offline semester running. So try to complete all your DSA preparation till mid October, and you should practice rigorously on lead code, which would be very useful for the placement tests and the interviews. You should try to solve at least 150 hard problems and 400 medium problems on lead code. That would benefit you a lot. Like some problems in the OA directly are taken from lead code. And in for my experience, the interview problems are also lead code hard problems. So the OA problems are just a tweak of the problems from the lead code.
I would like to first divide the preparation into two things. First, for those peeps who have actually a very good hands-on experience or they are very much actively involved in competitive programming. So for them, it is a little bit lesser a mountain to climb. Like they need to study little less, I will say. Just study or revise those concepts and just keep consistent or practicing regularly in lead code. Mostly I will say to prefer you should solve problems on lead code, and if you are giving to contest, then it is very well. For those who are starting their preparation or who don't have much confidence in the data structures, so first you should go step by step towards getting your first basic data structures right, and then you can slowly build up upon and reach to graph and DP. You should not focus on the advanced data structures at first and just complete the basic things. You should know about graphs, DP, binary tree, arrays, and most you can study first the articles on the GFG. Also, don't ignore the articles on GFG. They are actually very, very helpful. So now coming on to my preparation, like I was involved in competitive programming like for about 1 to 2 years, but like some sort of things, and I didn't get a PPO, so I sat for placements. So I was just consistently revising the concepts, and you can get. I didn't know segmentary at that time, so I studied about segmentary and tries. Then from after, I will say from August last to September, your tests start. Like one or two companies, the test will start, and the rigorous schedule will begin after, you can say, your mid semester break, which will be after October, like mid October, like Yuvraj said. And also do have a group of friends. Yes, as like we and Yuvraj were actually very much in touch during the placements and shared the placement strategies. So have a group of 3 to 4 friends whom you are able to share anything and everything and in every situation you like, and they, at a place where you should not be judged upon what are you are going through. And yeah, let's keep a healthy environment with yourself. Also have some supporting friends, even if they have got a PPO. Like you may have some supporting friends who are always there with you. So just keep up these things in mind, and you will surely do.
Yeah, so for me, lead code and GFG both were very useful during placements. It depends that you should have a thorough understanding of all those algorithms and data structures before the placement season starts. So I used to solve questions from interview bit and lead code, the medium hard problems, and I covered the IBIT, the whole from top to bottom. Apart from this, there is one sheet as well, the Strivers SDE sheet. A lot of my friends were used to do that. It also has a list of all the data structures with with properly curated problems like easy ones, medium ones, and hard ones. So you can go through that as well. For segment trees and for advanced algorithms, you can also go through the CSCS problem set. It almost covers all the algorithms that could be asked in the test. So if you have time, that you should definitely go through the CSCS problem set as well. Apart from this, as Yash said, that the main companies main tests start from mid October. So during that time, you should solve the previous year questions of the particular company that you are planning to give the test. So there will be a Discord channel. You should join that. All the IITs and NITs questions come in that channel, and the placement docs are also there. You can also like view the previous year question papers from lead code discuss. you can target those companies and you should solve those questions before appearing for the OAs of that company. And yeah, definitely you should have a group discussion. You should have good friends with whom you can discuss the questions. You should regularly solve all the questions. Even if you are not able to do that question in the test, you should absolve it, because there might be a chance that that question could appear in next test, because there is a limited number of platforms such as Hacker Earth or HackerRank, so they have a pool of questions, so it may get repeated. So if you are not able to get any questions, then definitely resolve and absolve those questions. The placement doc and the absolving part is the most important during the test.
So most of the important points are already covered. So I'll just cover my experience, like from the current timeline to the time of interview. I think there will be a lot of guys that will be resonating with the same situation as with me. So, like I got the internship very late. I had an on-campus internship in the February. So I stopped studying for 2 months because it was my fun time. And when during the internship, that's when I started preparing for placement. So during the internship, I only did for the 1.5 months. I only did DP and graph. Like I rigged all the questions from lead code and the code forces on DP and graph. And then now, if you are done with, if you have your basic strongs with DP and graph, if not, do it first. I'll recommend that first. And if you have that good, now that your offline semester will be starting. So one of the concern of many of you will be the offline classes. Like you have to attend them, and the attendance of every class is not chill. So you might go to some of the classes, so you can make a good use of that. Like I made, I'm from the civil department, so most of the teachers were not actually chill about the attendance. They demanded 75% attendance. So what I did was, I woke up in the morning, I went to class, and I just opened my phone, kept it on the table, and opened some GFG articles, the topic, like the thing which I was not confident about, and I just used to read them. Or I had a printed copy of the OS notes and the DBMS notes, and I just used to like flip it over in the class. So revising it again and again. So the thing that does is, like, you are sitting in the class, you cannot open the laptop, and going to the class is mandatory because risking with your academics is not a good thing. Getting a F grade is not a good thing. So like, some of the people risk it, but if you're not willing to risk it, then go to the class, sit on the backbench, open your phone, and look into the GFG articles, get a hard copy of OS notes and DBMS notes, flip it over again and again in the class. So you'll make a very good use of that time which you're attending the classes, and you will feel confident about the topic. Give that time only to those topics which you're not confident about, because that time is already going to be wasted if you're not doing anything. So better open your books or open your phone and do something with that.
Regarding the OAs, I would like to add one point. So what happens is OA consists of your coding problems and the MCQs, and major score is of the coding part, but MCQs do play a important role. So they will be a they will be in different languages like Python, Java, C sharp. So what trick you can use is, you will be asked to give the output of the code snippet, or you have to find the error in the program. So what I used to do is, I just used to copy it on a rough sheet, the code snippet, and I used to run it on the compiler of the coding problem by switching the problem. So that gave me the output, and believe me, it was very helpful. And what you need to do when you face a tough problem in OA, first you should try to solve the problem using the brute force approach and try to pass as many test cases as possible quickly. So what this will do is, this will reduce the pressure on you, and then optimize it, because many times company also shortlist on the partial scores, and even a single test case could be a deciding factor.
Just a point that I would like to add on what Yuvraj made said. Yeah, you can copy that code if you are asked the output type of questions in some other language which you don't know. Also, you can check if your answer is correct, and if you are not sure about the answer, if the code is C or in C++, Also, I found that some of the math problems that are difficult to solve, you can just write a small snippet of 1-2 line code in the C++ compiler and you can get the answer. Like in one test, I remember I was asked about say 900 term of Fibonacci or something like that. So I just write a for loop code for that and it just. So you can just strategize these things in your test.
And sometimes in the HackerRank platform, I think the debug console is also active. So basically, you can enter the test cases into that, and it's basically hack. So you can apply the test cases into that, and you can see the expected output. So it's like it's beneficial for refactoring your code and all that.
Also you can, like if you are just expect that if the, especially this is a very useful trick if the test is on HackerRank, if you are getting wrong answer on some of the test cases, maybe one or two, so you can print the test cases and you can see the output, and then you can, if you are able to see the expected output or you are able to solve it on pen and paper, then you can directly brute force the answer. Like you can say that if the test case number is this, and you can directly return the value and it will pass all the test cases, and which is actually a good hack, though it is not recommended, but if sometimes you can get something like this and it is useful.
Yeah, one more thing is like in some tests, aptitude questions are also asked. So you should prepare those as well. The CS fundamental questions may be asked in MCQs, and some probability and statistic questions can also be asked, some basic mathematics based. So revise those 11th and 12th concepts and the statistics part as well if you get time.
And one thing, one more point I would like to add by the that aptitude test. So you might also, while filling out the companies, you also like should inquire about the process, that how many coding rounds, how many interview rounds, and if there is an aptitude round or not, GD round or not. See, these rounds are like basically you have done coding on the like 3 or 4 years, but you have not practiced aptitude test, right? So the if the analyst guys sit with you and they're able to solve that questions in matter of seconds, but you will not be solving them because you don't have practice. You have practiced more on DSA problems. So it might happen that analytics guys would be getting shortlisted instead of you. So keep an eye on the process, that what exactly the process is, if there is a aptitude test or not, and if you can avoid the company, so like it's your decision.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Thank you. So thank you for the guidance. Like this also covered most of the part, like how to prepare for these open assessments and those. So like this is the next part which we are dealing with now regarding how to appear for open assessments and interviews. So one of the main questions like many students have is in the coding rounds, like there are cases for partial test cases, which Yuvraj we have discussed. Apart from that, the time and space complexity factors. So, like, is that also a deciding factor for companies?
Yes, like what happens is major companies don't focus on your space complexity, but they see that in how much time you have completed the test. Like for my case, there were two companies that shortlisted based on the time. Like Deutsche Bank shortlisted based on the time. Like if you complete it quickly, then your name is on the top. It's like that. Like they even check the time of completion. So you need to be fast in the online assessments.
Yeah, like while preparing also, like while solving lead code problems, you can also switch to that discuss section to check the most optimized approach of the questions, because sometimes in interviews also the interviewer may ask you to optimize the question to the most optimized one. So you need to start from the brute force one, and the interviewer will keep on asking you to reach that most optimized solution. So you should read those solutions even after you were able to solve that problem. And in coding test also, sometimes all the test cases will not be passed if the correct time complexity will not be applied in that particular solution. So you need to take care of the time complexities, and yeah, both time and space complexities matter during the interviews as well.
So one different thing in OAs in the comparison of interviews is like in the OA you have a certain like a kind of a thin line that you can work upon. Uh, don't try to solve the question completely. It may happen that you're having a bad day and you're not able to solve the question completely, but do get the partial test cases, because many of the times the partial test cases makes a difference. And I'm saying it from the experience, because the company right now I'm placed in, like most of the guys were not able to solve the complete question, and there were two coding rounds. In the first coding round itself I was able to solve the partial test cases. And if you need to hard code, if you're feeling that you are not able to uh, come up with a proper approach that can pass all the test cases, and if you have a very little time left, like 5 minutes or 4 minutes, then I'll recommend you like you throw all your chances at it and try your best at solving as much as test cases that you can solve. Because at last it will be a very later point of time that your code is being looked upon, like how you wrote it, and what is your approach. Passing the test case is the primary criteria that you need to clear off. So passing test cases is very important thing. So if you need to hard code some cases, like if you know that this is the answer for this test case that is struggle that I'm struggling upon, so do like hard code it. It doesn't matter. The thing matters is you need to clear all the test cases.
Yeah, most of the points covered by for online assessments and interviews. So like there is nothing much to add. Yeah, but you should definitely see to it that if you don't have much time left, then you should just hard code and pass whatever test cases you can do.
Yeah. Because it will happen many times that you'll come at hostel and you'll know that your friends hard coded it and they got shortlisted, and you'll feel a little bit low about it, that it was very easy to hard code or very easy to write a n square complexity code that would have easily worked upon. So like, and of course hard code is, I would say, it is not cheating, it's come from experience. It's about the experience on how you can analyze the code and how you can analyze the algorithm and the question. So yes, how to
Also,
figure out the
a
outputs for hard
guideline
coding.
for giving on a guideline for giving technical interviews is like you should have a good intro, uh, and you can see if the interviewer seems interested in your introduction, then you can elaborate a little more on what you are saying. And if he seems to be uninterested, then you can cut short your intro and just finish it. After that, like you may be asked to, there may be discussion on internship projects, or if you are given a DSA problem, then don't just start with the most optimized approach. And it may happen that you have solved that problem many a times before and it is again repeated in the interviews. So start with the brute force approach and slowly optimize it, and you should just appear that you are able to solve that problem on the spot and you just don't know it beforehand.
So for interviews, like if you are having shortlist in more than one company in a slot, so try to focus on the two major companies which you want to crack, as the complete process of a company may take 3 to 4 hours. And also from 1 month before the interviews, that is from 1 November onwards, start taking and giving mock interview with your friends, and ask them to give you coding problems as well as ask them to grill you on your resume. Like this is very helpful. Sometimes communication is also a factor in shortlisting and for further rounds in the interviews. Like many people get rejected due to bad communication skills. So if you don't have good communication skills, then start practicing it from now.
Yeah, one more
Actually,
thing to keep in mind is you should think out loud during interview, and you should properly explain your entire problem to the interviewer. Whether you are not able to do the entire problem, you should explain your approach to the interviewer, so at least the interviewer could help you further with the problem. And you should have a proper communication, be confident during the interviews, And you for building confidence, you can prepare the behavioral questions and the tell me about yourself and some HR questions beforehand. So because when you'll enter the room, the first question will be asked about tell me about something about yourself, or maybe about your projects or internships. These questions are definitely asked, so prepare those questions beforehand so that you don't stutter during the interviews with these basic questions.
Yeah. So I would like to share some points that helped me during my preparation. So, mock interview. First, let's talk about mock interview. Mock interview are a very essential part of your preparation. So, like you're having your interviews from 1st December. So after your NSIMs, like you should also give your mock interviews before the NSIMs and preparation. But if you have not done it, no problem. After the NSIMs, you'll have like 3 or 4 days before your interview starts. Make sure to give at least 3 or 4 mock interviews before sitting into a real interview. I'm not saying that it will improve your technical skills much, but just the barrier of sitting in an interview and introducing yourself, like getting started with the technical part, it is a big barrier. Like it can break your confidence, and it can happen that you are not able to solve the problem which you already know and which you're confident about. So confidence is really the key. So first thing, you might want to appear for the mock interviews, and I think SCS would be conducting, or like alumni cell will also be conducting some mock interviews. So you should take part in that. And if you're having some seniors working in the industry, so you can ask them to take the mock interviews. One interesting incident that I would like to share with you is like from the previous day of my interview, just some 16 hours before my interview, I took a mock interview with a senior. I think he was working in Quadai or something. So he just take a 1 hour interview rounds, and he asked the questions based on my projects, and he asked everything that he could think upon on seeing my resume. And in the actual interview, the company I'm placed right now in Niam interview, I faced 4 of the same questions that I was asked yesterday, and I was not able to answer them. And I just looked up on them the internet, and I answered them in the interview. So having a mock interview on with a person who is already working in the industry with 3 or 4 years experience, and you know what is going in the industry, it's very good. You can face the similar kind of questions in your interview too. So, like having that the initial part prepared, like your introduction and your resume, your projects, your intern, having it prepared by the heart can help you a lot in the confidence things. And if you're prepared a lot, then you'll not stutter and you'll not do those things which you're not supposed to do. So that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you for the guidance. So there is one very common question like students generally have, like regarding the OAs and interviews, should they prefer more on company specific part or both the scenarios or in generic? Like what should be more preference and at what time?
I think your question is not clear. Can you repeat once more?
Like there are many students who are confused like when to prepare for company specific OAs and interviews and when to prepare like in generic.
Okay. So general and company specific, like what are the timelines to prepare for that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the way I did it was until and unless the companies which I was aiming for, day one, day two, like day two, 2 or 3.1, the companies I was aiming for, until the test of those companies started, I was preparing in a general way. And when we came to know about that this company is enlisted on the portal, and if we are feeling the willingness or not, if it is like if we can for the non-secretarial branches we can fill the branch or not. After knowing all these specifics and knowing the test pattern, we started to prepare for the company specific. Company doesn't differ that much. Like BSA will be a component part of it, OOPS will be part of it. Computer networking can differ, and aptitude can differ, SQL can differ. These are small things which you can like prepare in general also, and you can also revise in company specifics. So when the portal, like the test pattern comes out, So it will be a good time to prepare for the company specifics.
That was all about the third. Thank you for the response. That was all about the third part of this session. Now, the audience is open to ask questions to the guests, and they have also listed some questions in the chat box. Like, I'll ask them. Until then, you can also, like, if you have some questions, you can prepare to ask them. One of the questions is like, in coding rounds, are the questions more lead code, that is DSA based, or code forces based?
Sorry, but I'm not able to hear you.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, now you're
Okay,
audible.
sorry. So now we'll move to, this was the end of the third part. Now we'll move to the discussion part. The audience can discuss their questions with the panelist. And before that, there are some questions which are listed in the chat box also. So I'll ask those questions till then. The first question is like, in the coding rounds, are the questions more of lead code, that is DSA based, or code forces based?
Okay. So nowadays,
Well,
what code forces?
First, Yuvraj, you can speak, and then after that, Yashviya.
Okay, so what happens on code forces nowadays is they are more ad hoc problems, constructive algorithms. But what happens in coding rounds or the online assessments is they ask you DSA based problems. Like there are very less chances that they will ask you greedy problems, constructive. They are more sort to ask you dynamic programming, trees, and stack queues. Like these problems will be asked. So lead code based problems are much likely to be asked in the online assessments.
Okay. Yashviya, will you like to add to that?
Yeah, like all the things that he has covered are the same. I will say like yeah, code forces are generally it's becoming quite ad hoc and they are mostly asking constructive algorithms type of questions nowadays. But generally, if you will get something like if you of code forces level, then it will be generally between 1800 or 2000 difficulty. So that is very much limited and very few companies ask for it. So you can just ignore it for the time being. If you are not actively involved with code forces, then you can just ignore it for next 4 to 5 months and focus yourself completely on interview bit and lead code.
One thing you can do is like you can practice the regular questions from the lead code, and you can also attend the contest on the code forces, because code forces contest are the one thing that really make you grind your mind on some problems. It can really help you with coming some intuitive problems. It will not help you on those things, preparing you for the data structures and algorithms, because in code forces there are, if a question is also including a data structure and algorithm, it will also have a tweak of some constructive algorithms. So, like for practice, code forces is not generally preferred for the OAs. Lead code is good, but for maintaining that problem solving attitude and that to a bound time restriction, like solving a problem under pressure and not getting it wrong, like completing it in one try. So these things, code forces are one thing that you can help that can help you for sure.
Okay. Uh, would you like to add, Bhavika, something?
More or less the same that you should give contest on code forces and lead code regularly. Code forces can improve your implementation skills, so then there will be an edge over others if you have good implementation and problem solving knowledge. Otherwise, the in the test the questions are majorly focused towards algorithms, as Yuvraj already mentioned. But giving code forces contest can help you in implementation skills.
Yeah. And guys, do look
Sure.
at the company questions because they're very important. Like I told you in the starting that the questions in the lead code and the code forces and company OS are very different. Like it might happen that you know a complete question, you know the logic of it, you have implemented it, and because of a small library or because of a small thing or a, like a small C++ thing, you can't remember. like the host question goes into a dump. So don't let that happen. Practice some of the company OS, like look how it is getting accepted, and also try to get familiar with the platforms in which the tests are taken, like HackerEarth and HackerRank. So you will get the problem of it, like how to read the errors. It will happen like if you are going into error, HackerEarth generally does this. The original error is displayed way beyond the line. It is on the 17th and 20th line, and above that there are a lot of errors that are of no use. So you might be getting a runtime error, but you will not able to figure it out, like what kind of error I'm getting. You'll be solving all the questions, but you'll not clear the test cases. So get a hang of the environment, get a hang of the platform before the coding test starts.
Okay. So thank you for the answer. The next question is regarding projects. Like, should the person go in depth of the technology which is used in the project, or only that specific part which was used?
Uh, like, can you repeat the question?
The question asked is that for the technology used in the project, should the student go in and study in depth of that technology, or only that part which was used in the project?
You should know what you have done in the project very well. If the interviewer goes into much deeper, then you can actually cannot do anything about it, and it is completely okay that the interviewer understands that you are only an undergraduate student and not an experienced working professional. So, but yeah, whatever you have written and whatever you have done in the project, that you should completely know by heart. And if the interviewer goes into much deeper things, then it doesn't leave a negative impact, and it is a sort of extra bonus thing if you can answer some of that questions as well. It doesn't leave a negative impression, so you can just focus like on only on the tech stack which was used in the project.
So you can follow this thing, like you should be able to answer the two second level questions. So what I mean by second level is the first level is which you have written in your resume, like your direct work. So like if your interviewer reads your resume, he'll have some questions on it. So he'll ask you some question. Let's say a question is asked and you answer on that. Then, based on your answer, he can ask a follow up question, or the technology you mentioned in your answer, or the algorithm you mentioned in your answer. He can ask the question about that. So, try that you are able to answer that question. And if he goes one level more deeper, then I think it doesn't matter. It's just a matter of bonus points. So prepare your project in such a way that if he asks a question and you answer that, so you answer in such a way that you don't invite for the new questions that you haven't prepared for, because there will be a series of follow up questions then.
Very true.
Okay. Thank you for the response. The next question is regarding internship. That should internship be mentioned if that is not related to the SD domain? Like if someone has done a core internship, should it be mentioned?
You can actually mention it, but then you should have proper reasoning, like why then you are switching your profile to SD. Like you can mention, there is not such any problem.
Yeah,
Like I know
like
one of the
I
person.
had a management intern in ITC and I mentioned that. So it's completely okay if you have another domain intern, but you should have answer to why you are switching the domains or why you did an intern in that company. You should be prepared with those questions. I was asked with those questions like why are you switching domains and such questions. So be prepared with that.
Basically, you should have a solid story about it, like what made you switch those uh, domains. So being a non-circular student from civil, that I was asked this many times, like you are from civil engineering, why do you want to offer software engineering? So I made a very good story about it. Like, yeah, I said that in the second year I did a project that was involving a Python plugin, like a Python small automation, and that drew my interest from civil to software development, and that story worked fairly. So you can make up a story about that. That should be strong, and yes, you can mention your core projects.
या तुम एक स्टोरी बना सकते हो एंड लाइक डिफरेंट डिफरेंट कंपनीज के हिसाब से तुम्हें फंडा अलग अलग है एंड द स्कोप और बैकग्राउंड ऑफ द स्टोरी रिमेन्स द सेम एंड यू जस्ट नीड टू फिल्टर आउट समथिंग एंड यू कैन जस्ट डिलीवर इट एंड at least you should have a logical reason behind what you are doing. I know one person in electronics who had a core intern in electronic circuital part, like I don't know in Jaguar or Texas, I don't know, but he sat for placements and now he's currently in Oracle. So yeah, it did actually work for him, and he was actually asked some core electronics type of circuital questions, of like semiconductor based type of questions in his interview. So you can mention there is not such a problem.
Okay. So the next question is also related to this thing only. Can the student mention their BTP projects or their exploratory projects of core in the resume?
It depends on branch and the scope of the project that is done.
Uh,
Like if it involves something of computer science or like related streams, then it is okay. But if it is completely out of that sync, then it is recommended that you should not write it.
so I would like to add up the project I made a story about was also my exploratory project. So yeah, you can mention those points and see the basic funda behind getting a successful interview is getting those minutes of interaction in which you can answer. So if your BTB projects really makes a good discussion points, if it is interesting, and interviewer would like to know about that, and if it's a little bit related to the domain, like if it's related to the computer vision or electronics or something like that, ML or AI, so it can draw the interest of the interviewer. And if the discussion comes onto that, and you're confident about your BTP, it's like a cherry on top. It will be very easy for you to maneuver the discussion.
Correct.
Okay. So these were the questions in the chat box. Others were answered by the panelists in the chat box only. So you can refer there. Now the audience is invited that they can unmute their mics and they can ask the questions.
For the time being, I have shared the interview experiences, like what the company interviews I give, and the placement prep advices that I have written. So you can go through that.
So thank you, Via, for that too. It will be helpful for us. Uh, so the audience is invited. You can unmute your mics and you can ask the questions.
One more thing I would like to
Okay.
add. So, like when you go for interviews for a specific company, uh, do try to inquire about how is the interview experience. Like you can ask a senior whom you know, or you can read the interview experiences on a TPC portal. Like they are actually very very helpful.
Yeah, actually, this is a very good point. You should know at least something about the company. So, if you are able to proceed in the second round or third round, so first round basically they don't ask you about some things like what do you think about what are your questions about us. But proceeding with the second round or third round, so like you're getting close to be selected, right? So you don't want to give a chance if you don't know about the company or you're not interested in the process. So get a hang of it. It takes only a few minutes the company I sat for, I looked after the first round, like what the company does and what all are its operations. So yeah, it's better to know about the company beforehand.
Okay. So thank you for the advice.
Uh,
Uh,
One more
is there?
point, I
Yeah.
don't know if it is covered or not. Do try to give mock interviews to your friends or to a senior whom you know. It actually helps you to improve a lot based on your communication skills and how well are you able to express yourself to the interview. So at least try to give 2 to 3 mock interviews before you are going for actual interviews in December to your friends, and then you can take active feedback from them, and from the next time you can try to improve on and build upon it, and it is very very helpful.
Okay, so thank you Via, for the advice. So I'd like to ask once again that if there are any questions, you can ask, or else we can end the session for now, and you can reach out to the panelists anytime. We'll share their profiles with you.
Someone has
Raised his hand.
Yes, Sridharan, you can ask the question.
are they allowed to unmute themselves?
Uh, yes. Anshu, can you check once on this?
Okay, Shanti.
Okay. Sridharan is facing some issues in his mic, I guess.
Yeah, I think he's not allowed. Can you check once if it is allowed for participants to mute?
Okay.
Or you can make him a presenter, right? It's
Check once, you will be muted.
yeah, Sridharan, you can unmute now. You are a presenter. So, meanwhile, he is going to unmute. I would also like to share one thing with all of the people who are preparing for the interviews. Uh, it might happen that you're having a bad day and you do not get your dream company, or you're not satisfied with the offer, or you didn't prepare too well for the interviews and didn't get offer. It's completely okay. You are from an IIT, and with the proper skill set and a proper practice, you can crack the any company or the company you want, any good company off campus too. There is no difference. Like, you're obviously getting a preference over the non-IIT candidates there too. So it's not that much big of a deal that if you do not have on-campus placements. But yes, it's a very comfortable thing. Like, it's a privilege that we get on-campus placement. But if you didn't get offered, don't be sad. Don't be upset about it, because with the right skill set, because in this situation, every company demands the right skill set. So you have the tag of IIT, and with the right skill set and the right experience, you can also crack any company off campus. So it's not an issue.